global African representation of everybody from where your origins are at. Jamaica, Kenya, we got, I heard Gambia earlier, Britain. I mean, it just tells us that clearly we are still one people, and that's all I appreciate more than anything else. I think, IF, that you brought up something that's very pertinent, and anytime I hear the word, what are the solutions? Because every day that yours truly wakes up, all I'm thinking of is what could be solutions for Africa. Not only for the problems, but how we can conquer. Because at the basis of anything that I look forward to, or anything that I represent, is not just necessarily trying to figure out a solution to a problem. I also want to make sure that we as African people, black folks, whatever we want to call ourselves, that we control this planet. Okay, and when I say control this planet, I'm not just talking in terms of a militaristic aspect. I'm talking about all aspects of our destiny as African people, to control everything. Every little thing that we rely on, everything that we need to be nourished, how to go ahead and make sure our families are protected, as well as how we raise our families, how we're educated. The media, i.e. when I say media, is our communication. I also like to look at education, which is practical application of information. I want to make sure our agriculture and our health, so we're not waiting on someone else to go ahead and find out what can cure us. I'd love to make sure that we're in control totally of our African destiny. And when you brought up what could be a solution, I look at 8 things that others who are definitely at least successful under a European construct. When I say a construct, I'm talking these Neanderthals that are destroying the world right now. I look at others that are at least finding a margin of success for themselves. That others might call them Asian, others might call them Hispanic. I don't care what they call them. They're not African, so it doesn't matter to me. But at least one thing I want to do is learn what is a measure of success, at least that they're using for themselves to control their destiny, or at least make sure that someone else doesn't control it, like what's happening to my people. And I say there's 8 things that are very simple in terms of solutions. This is from a macro perspective, so we can go into a micro perspective one day, down the line. But as an overall macro perspective, I say that you have 8 simple things. One being finance, and I'm not just talking money. I'm talking economy in general. Economy being the fact that the things that have to do with trade, the things that have to do with innovation, investment, things that have to do with, basically all tenets of time, till, toil, and task, which is what economy represents and the set of relationships that go with it. I also look at one of the other things is education, again, which is practical application of information. Not just going ahead and saying, well, I learned from a British whatever, or I learned from this French school. Remember, Africans educated the world. It was us who taught the world how to use fire. It was us who basically created and we're 9 million years older than anything else on this planet. So clearly, education, literally because of education, we were able to educate ourselves into survival. I look at other things when I said media. Media is not necessarily just, oh, I'm on social media, or I'm over there at the BBC, or I'm on CNN. That's crazy. That's European. They're very limited child, whereas we're the adults. When I say when I say media, I'm talking about the communication for everything from militaristic tools, social engineering, the communications for education, communications for media is one of the biggest forms of communication that could be used in almost every aspect for survival. When I'm also looking in terms of not just education, I also like to look at agriculture/health. Now that speaks for itself. Unfortunately, every African on this planet, in one shape or form, overall, not 99.9%, but overall, we're dependent on someone else to put either water in our guts or food on our table. And the reason I say that is if we don't have the means to protect it, someone else can come take it from us, whether it's Russia, China, United States, Israel, France, or whatever else. Yep. So agriculture/health is the ability for us to go ahead and make sure, one, we have that we're nourishing ourselves, and one, that we're protecting ourselves, especially from these diseases these foreigners are bringing to us. Then I look at the things in terms of international trade. This is the first time in a couple of centuries that I've heard it promoted where intra-Africa trade is literally starting to bloom. That's unfortunate because we've been doing it for, like I said, dang near 1 million years before anyone else showed up. We were trading with each other in terms of whether it was empathy, we were trading in terms of how to raise families, protect families, education, language, things that, that matter before, of course, we were, infected with these other people, excuse me, these other species. Then I also look at technology. Technology, and I love the discussion you guys had on chips. You brothers brought something out in me that I was just like, I was sitting here literally fixing to jump off the couch and jump into I was like, man, I'm loving this discussion.
Yeah, bring it.
It's not just chips and computers and whatever, these devices that others manufacture so we can talk to each other around the world. Technology at its basis core is the word technique. And we've had technique before anyone else was on this planet, okay? Otherwise, nobody else would be here. We had technique about survival, technique about protection, the whole 9 yards, which goes to the other tenet, which is called militarization, security, or protection. That in and of itself, that all encompasses one thing. If we as an African people cannot protect even ourselves, even in a small context, there's no way that, I won't say no way, I'll say it's quite difficult, and I may be wrong, quite difficult that we'll be able to protect each other en masse. When you're talking about technology, okay, again, technique, I think that we're capable of creating things outside of any so-called modern day, remember, if you're talking about their chips and their technology, they have something called Moore's Law, which means that, things double every 18 or 19 months. That's what we used to do back when I was programming computers back in the 70s and the 80s. And we would talk about Moore's Law. But let me tell you something. They're so limited, and I'm talking non-Africans are so limited. That's why you have United Snakes and others trying to go ahead and nationalize their so-called chip making. Why? Because they're a very limited species. Remember, they haven't been around as long as we have. Our technique, okay, and again, like I said about solutions, I'm just giving you guys some broad strokes about solutions and these 8 tenets of things that could be done on a macro scale. When you're talking about technique or technology, it's to think outside of anything else, and again, that's part of education. anything else that someone else is trying to quote unquote indoctrinate you with. We just call it teaching. Now, and I'll give it the last because there's a few more, but I don't want to bogart the time. The most important is security, militarism, protectionism, whatever we want to call it. That is the most, because if you cannot protect, whether it's your agriculture, whether it's your education, whether it's your media, whether it's your international trade, whether it's your finance, whether it's your technology, it doesn't matter what you do if you cannot protect it. And I'm not just talking about, okay, we've got an AK-47. I'm talking all aspects of protection, including secrecy. I'm talking about making sure you have your inventory of people that you know that are within your circle. That protectionism is not just a military 100%. Aspect. It's all aspects of making sure what you have will not be in the hands of your competitor that will steal it and use it against you. On that, I thank you guys for letting me speak, and